In this session, we're going to talk about operations. By operation, we means plus, minus, multiply, division. So these are actually in a Scala are method calls. We don't actually have operator in traditional sense. Instead, those characters are actually, they can be used in method names. For example, when you type 5 plus 8, just gonna if you type 5 plus 8 uh, here, you are actually calling a method plus, and you're passing two objects to this. I know this is a new concept for you, so before jumping to explain this more, I wanted to explain that uh, in a Scala, if you have a method that takes only one parameters, then you can call it without the dot or param. Isn't it awesome? For example, don't worry about this. This is a for loop. I'm going to explain to you in the next session about arrays and for each. But for example, here, I want to write a for loop that prints some array of students, right? So here I can say from 0 to 2 for I, from 0 to 2, print this guy, right? Prints all the students. When I say 0 to 2, basically Scala means object 1, 0, dot, which is a function name, which is like, it means there's a function, and then dot 2 is a function name, and the second 2 is the object second parameters that I'm passing to this function. But in order to write 0 dot 2 to 2, I can just simply say 0 space 2 2. And why is that? The only reason for this is because my function takes only one parameter. So instead of using parentheses and doing number 2 and closing it, I can just say 2 2, and I don't even need to pass this dot here. So I can remove this dot, I can remove this parenthesis, and I get this. That's why we're in love with the Scala, because it just makes sense, because naturally when you want to say go from 0 to 2, you just write 0 to 2. You don't worry about the details, right? So I said all this to say, for example, when we talk about 5 plus 8, which is operator plus, in Scala, when we write 5 plus 8, right? Basically, what's happening under the hood is you have integer object with value 1, with value 5, and then you're invoking on 5 a method name plus. So this is the object, right? And then you have a method. You're going to call a method on this object, which is plus. And this method plus can take the input from 8, which is object 2, right? So I think if you have any background of writing object-oriented, which I think it's necessary to know about this course, you know that every object, every classes, we define methods. So by default, the int object has a method plus, and method plus can just take this. So imagine instead of plus here, you had something named plus method, right? Is actually the same. What would you do? You would say 5 plus 8, right? But instead of the term plus, they used actual plus. So this is a method name. And that's how operators, they work, all of them in Scala. So I can just say, for example, let's just see here, println 5 plus 3, right? And if I click on 3, sorry. So I have 5 plus 3, and it's gonna Or we can also, you can see the result of 5 plus 3 is equal to 8. I can also say, well, 5 plus 3, well, value equal to 5 plus 3, right? So this is called, if you notice, if I put my mouse on the plus, you could say that this is a function plus, and this is object 5, object 3, and then I have the value, and I can just print the value. And I think this is really, really cool. And this is actually the example I showed you. When you want to write a for loop, you can just, if you know, if you look at this two, the two is actually a function. If you look at the two, definition two accepts the integer and it's going to return a range of number between self and end, which we can learn about it in other sessions. But basically, this is a function too, right? And you can also write it, instead of doing this, you can say 0.2 and then pass 2 is exactly the same as saying, so instead of writing this, you can write, just remove the parentheses, remove this space, and remove the dot. Just makes your code super clean and no need to bother for all those extra stuff we have. Okay, I think, yeah, now it's good. Okay, so this is about operations. So we learned about that the fact that operations are method calls, and we also learned something very cool in Scala, that basically if a method takes only one parameters, we can call it without a dot or params. So next time you see something very abstract in Scala, you won't be confused. You actually can guess right away that the reason there is no dot and there is no parenthesis in the function, it's because that basically that method has only in the definition takes only one parameters. So that's it for operation. Thank you.